Alright, welcome back. This is What If Deku was Shirou Emiya, part 11. And before we get started, I'm just going to let everybody know right now, the rest of my series is going to be 18 plus. I'm going to start, describing all the scenes and what happens in more detail. And there's going to be a lot more graphic violence and more sexual content. So if you're not in for that, click off now because this is your one and only warning. But everybody else who's sticking around, I appreciate you. You guys blew the last video out of the park. At the time of recording this video, it's been up. Part 10's been up for like 14 hours and already has over 102 views. So I'm just thankful for that. But let's get back into it. So where we last left off, Deku, he just killed Gilgamesh and ended one of the Holy Grail Wars, but there is still another one brewing. It hasn't started yet, but Deku is severely wanting to end it as quickly as possible. And after he just got done having sex with Tosaka, she's laying there naked, and Deku is like pulling the blanket up on her, puts his arm around her, and he's just laying there thinking about everything that's happened to him in the past month or so. He had to kill his own father. He had to, let a man die because he was too dangerous to be kept alive. He got his arm cut off and replaced with his future self's arm, killing his future self. His own sister got slaughtered. He transformed into some mutated, just disgusting thing. And he had to destroy that, which effectively killed all that remained of his sister. His servant Saber is gone. She's gone now. And all he really has left is Tosaka. She's the only thing holding him down and keeping him from just losing his control. And he decides that's enough. He has to protect her no matter what. Because without her, he is not going to be able to keep his sanity. He's lost too much, and he can't lose anything else anytime soon. In the future, maybe. But for right now, he has to keep everything that he's got. And he's kisses Tosaka and closes his eyes and goes to sleep. The next morning rolls around, and Deku wakes up. He gets dressed. He notices that Tosaka's already out of the bed. Her clothes are gone, so he's assuming she's, in the kitchen. And, Deku, he rolls out to the kitchen, and he sees her over there, just sitting at the table, drinking coffee. Anita's awake. He has a cup of coffee and nursing a terrible headache at the moment. And Ida basically is telling her, man, that's the fastest I've ever had to move. And he's like, what would have happened if that sludge would have caught up to me? And she tells him, it would have burned you alive with excruciating pain, and since you're not a mage, it would have killed you. And Ida realizes he was running for his fucking life. And Ida's legs, they are still in terrible shape. And he's thinking in his head, well, At least the exams are just going to be written ones for a while. I shouldn't have to use my legs for at least another week or so. And Deku, he walks over there. He puts his arms around Tosaka, kisses her on the neck. And, Tosaka's like, well, good morning. She embraces him fully. They share a kiss, and Deku, he says he's gonna get breakfast started. And, he does like, so, is, this just your house? Do you just live here by yourself? And Deku tells him, well, I did for a long time, but now Tosaka's been staying here with me for the longest. For the past couple months, she's been staying here with me. And that's actually how we ended up dating. And, he's just like, yeah. And he's like, about our fight last night with that blonde-haired guy, and he's like, oh, Gilgamesh? And, he was like, yeah, him. Those swords of his split trees in half like they were nothing. The earth crumbled into a crater when you guys fought. And on top of that, it seems like that weapon he was going to pull out would have destroyed miles of land. And Deku tells him, you have no idea what that weapon would have been capable of. And he is like, did you fight it before? And Deku's like, yeah, it took my arm, and it barely touched me. This arm of mine, it's a replacement from my future self. And Ida's like, what? What the fuck you mean from your future self? And he says, you remember Archer, right? And he's like, yeah. But now that you think about it, I haven't seen Archer in a while. And he's like, Archer's dead. And he's like, what? And he's like, he cut off his own arm to give me another one. Because if I would have died in the past, I couldn't have become a heroic spirit that he grows into, which would have created a paradox and destroyed basically all of reality. So he had to literally cut his own arm off, and while he was bleeding out, magically attach it to me, just fusing it into my body, connecting his magic circuits to mine, and sealing it so it would not destroy me. And Ida points out, well, it looks like you could pretty much take it pretty well after all. You did, just throw off the bandages and fight Gilgamesh with it all out. And Deku tells him, and it hurt like hell, and it increased the burning of my skin. And that's when Ida actually, starts getting a good look at Deku. And he notices Deku's skin has been burned, pretty much his entire right side of his face is now a darker skin color. His neck is darker. His, shoulders, his, basically every part of his right body is pretty much burned, and most of his hair is white now. It's almost completely white with only a few patches of green left in it. The opposite of where it was just a day ago. And Deku tells him, that's the price for using the magic. It burns the pigments inside of my skin that give its color, and it darkens my skin. And it completely rids my hair of its color turning it white. And he says, that is the price, but there could potentially be another price. And, you know, Ren overhears this, and she's like, what could be the other price? And Deku's like, a magic rebound. Basically, instead of the weapons I create generating outside, they could just start breaking through my body if I'm not careful, and if I don't get used to this power and get all my other magic circuits up to that level to equal it out. I'm going to have to do some hardcore training to increase my body's muscle mass and my magic circuit's power level. I have to become Archer, and soon. And Tosaka hears that, and she's scared to death. Like, she's got tears running down her face, and she tells him, you're not going to let that happen, are you? You're not going to become some sordid shish kebab, are you? And Deku tells her, if it means keeping you safe, I will gladly allow the rebound to hit my body after you're safe. He's like, this isn't a debate. I've lost too much. I can't afford to lose you or my last best friend in the entire world. I can't lose you two. No matter what happens, even if I were to die, even if I have to commit the most atrocious acts known to humankind, I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe. And Ida says, well, then you have to let us do everything we can to keep you safe. And Deku's not used to the double standard. Like, he's not used to that. Like, pretty much his entire life, the only one who ever cared kind of about him was Kiritsugu. But he died not even 2 years after he adopted him. And the clock tower was just full of people who didn't really care about Deku as a person, but just saw the, potential in him. And Deku's not used to that. But he agrees, because that's the only way they're going to let that slide. And so Deku agrees to it, as much as he doesn't want to. And they eat breakfast, and it is their day off from school, being a Sunday and all. So Deku immediately starts training himself. Him, Ida, and Tosaka all go to the gym, and they start working out. Sakura, she's kind of staying at home because she feels really guilty for Ilya dying, and, her not. So she's just kind of there, and Luvia decides to stay there and try and talk to Sakura and get her to, come around to reason, saying that, yes, Ilya did die, but Sakura's life is just as important. So, I'm going to say Deku, he's training his left arm heavily to increase muscle mass as much as he can. And while he's working out, he's also using his magic circuits so he can strengthen his body twice at the same time, just strengthening his muscles and his magical circuits by, strengthening his entire body. And he's doing arm bell curls, squats, just everything that he can, just as many workouts as possible. And then he does martial arts practice, archery, projection magic, strengthening magic, acceleration, everything in his arsenal. He is training. He is a madman that knows no limits at this point. but he is still just a human. So his pain is immense at the end of the day. And Deku, he goes into the shower room and he's just gets into the tub and lays there. He takes out a deep breath and he's just like, and he notices he's gotten a lot more used to using Archer's arm today, but just in the movement wise. He still can't use the magic circuits properly without feeling some sort of feedback from it. So, he decides he's just going to have to train himself harder. And while he's in there just enjoying a bath, he's decided to stay over a few more days with Deku just to make sure he's alright. So Ida's got his books and he's studying. But while Ida's studying, he's also doing leg workouts to try and increase his flexibility and his fluidity with his running. Because he notices that, it was too close of a call with him and Tosaka nearly getting killed. He's got to increase his own power, and after seeing how, Deku pushed himself so hard, Ida's not about to be left behind. Because Ida sees Deku as his brother. Like, just the way his other brother is, that's, what Deku is. And, everyone in, Class 1A sort of can tell that those two are really close. So they're really not in the mood to be, kind of messing with it, but everyone is wondering what's going on. And, Tosaka, she's feeling a little bit weird now. Like, one minute she's fine, and the next minute, she suddenly starts feeling nauseous. But she's keeping it to herself. She doesn't want to really worry anybody. And so, she comes to Sakura. Sakura's consoling her sister, trying to make up for all the lost time that they had and just be actual sisters. Because Sakura, she now knows that either her or Rin could be killed at any moment, and all she would have is this regret. So she's there for her sister, tending to her, helping her feel better, just bonding with her. And Luvia's there too, because only two girls in the house, and, she doesn't really feel comfortable speaking to Deku after everything that happened and not really being able to help out much. Considering she left him to fight Gilgamesh by himself with Ida, and all she could really do is just keep, Sakura safe and sort inside of a force shield. And that was pretty much it. And, Ida, he's still, reading, but he decides to take a break. Because all the ruckus the girls are making, it's kind of hard for him to study. So he's thinking he's going to go in there and ask them nicely just to, keep it down. He walks in and he sees Tosaka just throwing up. And he's just like, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" And Tosaka says, "It's none of your damn business what's wrong with me." She's like, "I'm just a little sick is all." He's just like, "Well, should we tell Emiya about this?" And she's like, "No, it's none of his concern. He already has enough to think about. I don't need him worrying about me just being a little nauseous. It's nothing. Don't worry about it." Ida, he concedes because it's not just her telling him that. It's Luvia and, Sakura. And besides, Ida, he's going to listen to Luvia because he kind of does, have a thing for her at the moment. And he's just trying to figure out how to make his move. And, you know, he's just not wanting to ruin things before he gets a chance to get his game on. So, Ida walks out of there and he's like, fine, guess I'll just stop studying for now. And he walks and he sees the training room with swords and shit in there. And, he sees Deku. And, he's just like, hey, Emiya, what's up? Deku looks back and he's like, oh, hey, Ida, what's up? He's like, what are you doing in here all by yourself? And, Deku's just like, I just cleared my head. This room always gave me a clearer thought process and just made me better overall. He's like, yeah, I feel you, but we should really get to sleep. We do have school tomorrow, and that starts the exams. Deku tells him he's not really worried about the exams. And, he just like, listen, Emiya. I know you really don't care about being a hero anymore, so I gotta ask, why do you keep going to UA? And Deku looks at him and he says, well, just because I'm willing to do anything to keep, you and Rin safe, doesn't mean I can't be a hero. He says, I still want to be a hero of justice. That is still my ideal. And I still want to strive for it. And, my dad told me that I already became a hero of justice and that I was a great one. But a part of me feels different. A part of me doesn't believe him. But I'm not going to keep living in his shadow. I've achieved his wish and his dream. So now it's time for me to become the hero of justice that I believe in. A hero of justice that is my version, my ideals. A hero of justice who can save anyone and everyone. And he just looks at Deku and he's just like, I understand. And Deku asks Ida, what's your reason for even being a hero anyway? And Ida tells him he wanted to be just like his brother. But after talking to, Deku all this time, it's kind of changed his lookout on it. And Deku's like, oh, so what about now? And Ida tells him, now I want to become my own hero of justice as well. Yeah, my family has this prestigious line and all that, but, I just can't really bring myself to do it. And he's like, oh, yeah, you missed something at school that you need to go to the counselor's office, the teacher's lounge, to get it registered in there. He's like, oh, what's that? And he says, your hero name. And he's like, huh? He's like, yeah, when we were, selecting our mentors, they had us pick hero names. But you weren't there because of the accident. Really the fight. Not the accident anymore now that I know the truth. But, you're gonna need one. And Deku's just like, alright. I'll go tomorrow and register a hero name. And he's like, awesome. After all, I'm going to go and change mine as well. And Deku's like, oh, what'd you put yours as? And he's like, I just used my first name as Tenya. And Deku's like, oh. So, what is your name actually going to be? And Ida says, you'll find out tomorrow. Yes, Deku, what is his name going to be? Deku tells him, you'll find out tomorrow. If you're going to keep me waiting, I'm going to keep you waiting. Anita pokes a joke at him saying, oh, really? You sure it's just not because, that's all that you can really say at the moment? You just can't think of anything? Deku's just like, trust me, I already have the name figured out. And so, Ida's like, so are you going to, wear your new costume, or are you going to go back to your old one? Deku tells him, I'm going to go back to my new one. After killing Gilgamesh, I avenged my sister Ilya and my future self, along with the Lancer that was slaughtered, Berserker, as well, so I'm pretty sure I've earned the right to wear it now. And he was just like, good. You deserve it. So the next day comes, and, Deku's walking with Ida to school. They enter the building, and they go to the teacher's lounge where, Aizawa was at, grading tests, and, yes, why are those two here so early? And Deku tells him, well, if you do recall, I don't have a hero name registered yet. And Ida needs to change his. And so he looks at Ida and says, oh, so what is your hero name going to be? And Ida says, Ingenium. I'm taking up the mantle now. I'm ready. Aizawa changes it. And, he looks at Deku and he's like, all right, what's yours? Deku takes in a deep breath. And he says, Archer. And Aizawa's like, Archer? Are you sure? And Deku tells him, I'm positive. It has to be Archer. And Aizawa says, all right then. It's been registered. It'll update, and yours will add in like 2 days, so you can expect to be notified of that. So don't worry about it. Now head off to class. I'll be there shortly. And, Deku and Ida are walking, and Deku actually has a bit of tears running down his face, and he clenches at his chest, and he can feel the necklace that's underneath his clothes. And Ida tells him, if you're wanting to look at the necklace, then why don't you just go ahead and wear it on the outside of your uniform? There's no rules against it, Deku thinks about it, and he says, by the way, you're crying. It's going to ruin your image if you don't wipe it off soon. So Deku, he wipes the tears from his face, pulls out the necklace, and Ida asks him, why Archer? And Deku tells him, I'm just picking up the mantle. I'm ready to now. And he was like, well, it looks like we both finally stepped out of the shadows and into the light as Archer and Ingenium, the heroes of justice. Deku says, that don't sound too bad. And they go off to class. And they get there. Everyone sees Deku's new look. And, they see his hair is mostly white now. The burns on him have gotten worse. And everyone's just like, what in the fuck happened? And, Deku's not really wanting to answer that at all. So he just sits down in his desk and he just sits in his and, I must say, Asui comes walking up to Deku and she's like, hey, it's been a while since, we talked last. And, Deku's like, oh, yeah, seems like it has been, hasn't it? And Froppy's asking him, what's up with the new necklace? And he's like, oh, it's a keepsake. And, Deku, he's just clenching it, holding it tightly. And that's when Bakugo walks up, he kind of pushes Asui out of the way. And he grabs Deku by the collar and he's like, what the fuck is up with that hideous look of yours? And he's like, if you're not going to talk, I can go ahead and burn the information out of you. As he has explosions going off in his hand. Ida gets up and he's about to, just go ahead and hit Bakugo as hard as he can. But that's when Kirishima and, Denki step up in the way and they're just like, no, it's about time we got some answers out of Emiya over there, so, we're not just going to let him keep doing whatever he wants and not telling us anything. If we're ever put in a situation where we have to all work together, then how are we supposed to work with someone who we can't even trust? He's coming to school looking more and more different every day. And on top of that, he can somehow just pull swords out of midair. Oh, but he's quirkless, huh? And Deku, he's not really taking it. He takes Bakugo's wrist, and he puts pressure, and he's like, you're gonna let go of me. Because if you damage this necklace in any way, shape, or form, I will dislocate your shoulder and break every bone in this arm. And that is a promise. And Bakugo's just like, what, you think I'm fucking scared of you, asshole? And he puts his hand right in Deku's face and sets off an explosion. And that pisses Deku off. And then everyone turns around and looks, and Aizawa comes in, and he, just as the time he enters the room, he saw Bakugo set off an explosion right in Deku's face. And Aizawa's freaking out. He's just like, what in the fuck did you just do? And then all anybody hears is a loud crunch. And next thing you know, Bakugo's screaming in pain as he's thrown onto the floor with Deku's foot pushing against his skull as he pulls with all his might on Bakugo's arm. And all you hear is a loud and that's Bakugo's fucking joint being ripped out of its socket forcefully, and then Deku just takes his arm and every finger, joint by joint, he breaks the bones in Bakugo's hands. And, Aizawa's already, like, trying to get over there, and Ida's telling him, no. Everyone needs to see what's going to happen if you try and kill Deku. If you try and kill Emiya, this is what is going to happen. And he's just like, the dude's been through hell, and you guys are doing the most fucking unhero-like activities. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? And he's like, and any of you guys could have stood up and told them that they need to stop. But none of y'all did. And Ida's going off, and he's just like, you guys have no idea what he's been through. He just had to watch his own sister die and bury her. He hasn't even had a chance to set up a proper funeral for her. The dude was in a coma for a week. And not only that, but his own skin pigments inside of his body are being burnt and darkening his skin, and that is a painfully slow process that's happening. He's losing all the color in his hair, and y'all don't even give a fuck. Y'all didn't even ask him, how is he feeling? Are you okay? None of that. What the fuck is wrong with all of y'all? And you want to be called heroes? That's the most villainous shit you guys could have ever pulled. Trying to kill somebody to get information out of them? That's fucking retarded. If he doesn't want to tell you, he has a right to not tell you. But I'm not going to sit here and let you guys try and say he's the reason that you guys are doing this. No, it's all because you guys can't stand not being strong enough. None of you are heroes, and none of you deserve to be one. And listening to that, Aizawa is shook that Ida, of all people, is going off on this tangent and telling them, that Deku is more heroic than any of them in this entire class. And at that time, Deku's finished breaking all of the bones in Bakugo's arms. And Bakugo, he's passed out. He passed out a while ago from the pain. And, Nezu, he was outside the door listening in on that whole conversation. And he walks in, and Aizawa sees him, and he's just like, oh shit. Nezu sees Bakugo, and he's just like, what happened here? And, he's looking at Aizawa, waiting for an answer. And Aizawa says that he entered the room and Bakugo set off an explosion right in Izuku Emiya's face, which then led to Izuku Emiya breaking Bakugo's arms and fingers and dislocating it. And Nezu asked Deku, is that all you did to him? Did you do any other harm? Did you try and escalate the situation? And Deku's like, no, I gave him a fair warning to let me go. He just grabbed me and demanded information from me about my personal life. Has no need of him at all. And as soon as I told him to let me go, he put an explosion in my face. Ida was trying to stop him, but, Kirishima and Kaminari stepped in front of him and told him that they were going to do whatever it took to get the information out of me, even if that meant killing me or torturing me. And Nezu, he's pretty satisfied with that explanation. And Nezu asks, who else tried to stop it? Honestly, nobody else raises their hand. And Deku, he's like, well, there's one exception to that. And Nezu's like, oh, why is that? And he points down at Asui, who was, assaulted by Bakugo as well. And he's like, she was assaulted by Bakugo as well. And, Nezu looks at Asui and he sees that Deku's telling the truth. So he tells Bakugo, Kirishima, and Kaminari that, they could be facing some serious charges. But as for Kaminari and, Kirishima, the most he's going to do to them is expulsion. They're expelled from UA. And it's like, what? And he looks at Bakugo down there on the ground. He's like, get him to, Recovery Girl. And then call the police. We're pressing charges on Katsuki Bakugo for attempted murder of a classmate. And Aizawa was like, what about Izuku Emiya? And Nezu looks at him and says, what about him? It was in self-defense. He did what he had to stop the assault on his life. And he says, as for the rest of these students, minus Asui, the exam for them is going to be 100 times harder. And if any of them fail, they are to be expelled immediately. And Aizawa was like, what about Ida and, Izuku Emiya? And, he's just like, Nezu looks at him and he says, those two will be given a fair, and I do mean an absolute fair test. And he looks at those two boys and he's like, if you guys fail, just know you could be kicked out as well. So I'm expecting great things from you two after that declaration of how heroes should be to your classmates. It better be top tier. Show me just how much conviction you have and resolve that you have to trust in your ideals that much. Show me what makes you worthy to be having the title of a hero. And as he walks out, and Aizawa picks up Bakugo and takes him to Recovery Girl. Later, like 30 minutes later, police are there and Bakugo's in handcuffs being walked out the front gate. And everyone in the classes see that and they're just like, what the hell? And so Bakugo is escorted out, and all the reporters, everyone is there just filming it, trying to get a statement. And, Bakugo's mother, she's watching the news and she sees her son being walked out in handcuffs, and she just drops the plates and she's just like, oh God, what did he do? And about that time, her phone rings and she sees the number is UA. She answers it and immediately is like, what in the fuck are you guys doing to have my son arrested? And she, as it explains, that if she would have answered her phone sooner, she would have known sooner. But her son committed attempted murder on another student just for not liking him, and just for that student not divulging information about their, personal lives, which he had the right not to divulge. And, she's just like, I can't believe that. I won't believe it. And, as he tells her, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. We have video camera footage from it. There's video cameras in every classroom here. It's been captured on tape and is being used as evidence in his case. I suggest you get a lawyer ready for him. But, I'm pretty sure the case is going to be settled and your son will be going to jail. And, Mako's mom just can't believe it. She just can't believe it. And, she's not the only one watching. Shigaraki is watching, and, he's like, he could be a good recruit after all. His time as a hero is pretty much over. And Kurigiri's talking to Shigaraki, and he's like, you want us to warp over there and pick him up? And Shigaraki's like, no, not yet. Right now he's surrounded by too many pro heroes, plus All Might's still around. Can't have him, ruining things. But soon we'll get him. And that's where I'm going to leave it off for today. So, I appreciate you guys sticking around and, all the support you've been showing the videos. It really means a lot to me. And, it's just amazing. So, thank you guys for all the support you show these videos. It really motivates me to make better and better videos every time. And, if you want to, check the description below. I made a Facebook page for you guys to interact with me directly, giving me direct feedback and everything that you guys would want to see. And if you guys are interested in, me creating a Discord server for this channel, then, let me know in the comments below. And, like, comment, subscribe if you're new. Catch you guys later.